Okay, step one, the credibility of religions generally. When you approach any religion on the planet and you ask them, what have you got? They will describe to you certain benefits that you will receive if you join that religion. If you become a Christian, you get a front row seat in the next world. If you become a Hindu, you'll gain control over nature. If you become a Buddhist, you can achieve unparalleled oneness with the universe, and you can achieve something like the state of a divinity. Each religion has their own, I won't go through all of them, but each religion has their own benefits that they offer, right? Islam, I can't even describe in a classroom what you get. Actually, I don't know what ladies get. I know what guys get. But there are benefits. There are benefits. Okay, now, if you ask the leaders in these religions, tell me something. If I don't join your religion, but instead I join that religion over there, will I still get the same benefits as if I joined your religion? To paraphrase, if I say to Christian leaders, I'm not going to become a Christian, instead I've decided I'm going to become a Hindu, will I still gain all the benefits of being a Christian? Will I get a front row seat in the next world? What will a Christian tell you? No, right? If you accept Jesus, then you are saved. If you do not accept Jesus, you are not saved. If I would say to a Buddhist, I'm going to, instead of becoming a Buddhist, I'm going to practice Christianity, will I achieve the Buddhist promise of the 8th stage of transic insight? No, right? What you notice right away when you start interviewing people from different religions is that the benefits of that religion are invariably offered exclusively. That is, you use their technology, you achieve their benefits. You do not use their technology, you do not achieve their benefits. Once a religion has made the claim of exclusivity, I would like to argue, they have stepped onto what I would call the credibility trapdoor. And if you want to destroy the credibility of that religion, all you have to do is know where the cable is, pull, and whoosh, the credibility goes down the tubes. How do you do it? You say like this, tell me something. You are the only ones on the planet that possess this system for achieving the benefit that you promise. That means that this system must be essentially secret. Now, when I say that it's secret, what I mean is that if it was written in the heavens, accept Jesus and be saved, then everybody on earth would look up to the sky and see, you must accept Jesus to be saved, and we'd all know it. So if people don't know that, then how do you know it? I would ask the leaders of this religion. And when you ask the leaders of a religion, where did you get this information? They will reveal to you something which I dubbed the revelation narrative. The revelation narrative is the story of how the founders of the religion came to possess the secrets that enable you to gain these benefits. Okay, now, what I discovered is that 165 major religious families on planet Earth, which include thousands of sects and cults, every single one of these 165 major religious families has a similar revelation narrative in one respect. And I won't tell you what the similarity is. I'm just going to tell you a few revelation narratives, and right away the similarity will pop out and it'll be obvious to you. How does Christianity start? Christianity starts, according to the Catholic Church, the oldest movement that we've got so far. According to the Catholic Church, the way that it starts is not with Jesus, right? The Jesus cult rose and fell. 35 years after Jesus was born, the cult was essentially gone. There was a few stragglers. Then what happened was, after Jesus was dead, this is the beginning of Christianity, after Jesus was dead, there was an Orthodox Jew by the name of Shaul, the most important person in Christian history besides Jesus himself. Shaul was walking alone on the road to Damascus. And as he's walking alone, after Jesus is dead, he has this vision. And none other than Jesus appears in front of him and says, hi. Jesus then tells over to Shaul the entire story of his life. Shaul is so impressed by this that he drops to his knees, he converts, he changes his name from Shaul to Paul. And Paul then goes back into the city and tells the story of Jesus' life, including all of the miracle stories that we have about Jesus. Every miracle that we know about Jesus is recorded in books that were either written by Paul or fragments that were written based on the Pauline documents. Okay. All of these documents are passed down through history from about 35 CE to, actually it was around 65 CE, to 325 CE. In 325 CE, all of the Christian documents that have been written based on the Pauline documents and the Pauline fragments themselves are gathered in Nicaea, at the Council of Nicaea. They have to determine which are legitimate, which are not legitimate. They decide that all of them are legitimate, even though there's contradictions between them, and they throw them in to the canon, and in 325 CE, at the Council of Nicaea, the New Testament is born. Now, it turns out like this. If Paul told the truth, then Christianity is true. If Paul lied or hallucinated or exaggerated or whatever the case is, then Christianity is not true. It turns out that the entire credibility of Christianity rests on the credibility of one man, Shaul, aka Paul. If he told the truth, it's all reliable. Okay, watch. Muhammad starts to hear these voices. I'm paraphrasing from the Quran directly. He starts to hear voices in his head, which he later recognizes, I'm quoting, later recognizes as the voices of God. Muhammad dictates these experiences that he has. Muhammad himself was illiterate, according to Islamic tradition. That's part of the miracles. How could an illiterate man have written such an amazing document or have dictated such an amazing document? The truth is he didn't write anything, and the Islamists will tell you he didn't write anything. He dictated the Quran to a scribe. The scribe wrote out each one of these prophetic experiences called a surah. These surahs were all gathered together into one document, the Quran, and Islam is up and running. Now, each time Muhammad dropped to the ground and convulsed and got back up again and dictated this prophetic experience that he had, if he was telling the truth, then Islam is true. If Muhammad was experiencing epilepsy, or he was lying, or he was exaggerating, then Islam is not true. It turns out that the entire credibility of Islam rests on the credibility of one man, Muhammad. Let's use a modern cult. Joseph Smith Jr. is hiking alone. He discovers golden tablets written in a language not known to modern man called Reformed Egyptian. Next to the tablets, he discovers a dictionary that translates from Reformed Egyptian to modern English, thank God. He uses this dictionary to translate the golden tablets. He then destroys the golden tablets, because after all, who needs golden tablets? And he takes the translation and he delivers it to mankind and gathers a number of followers. A little bit after that, his best friend, Oliver Cowdery, starts having revelations as well. The two of them take these later revelations, they put them into another document called the Doctrines and Covenants, and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is born, right? The Mormon religion is born. It turns out here that this is a much more credible religion because you've doubled the number of people who would have had to have lied in order to get this thing up and off the ground, right? The Mormon religion is dependent on two people having said the truth. If Oliver Cowdery and Joseph Smith Jr. said the truth, the thing is true. If they lied, exaggerated, hallucinated, whatever the case is, they were on a drug trip, whatever it was, then the whole thing is a lie. Okay, now, Buddhism is the same, obviously. Siddhartha Gautama settles beneath a Bodhi tree, goes into a trance, intent of knowing all there is to be known. He ascends out of his body, leaving his body a lifeless mass on the ground. He goes up through the 8 stages of transic insight, achieves all there is to be known, and he achieves the form of B-U-D-D-H-A, which is a sort of divine state. He never had to descend into his body again, but because he loves mankind, he came back, revivified his body, stood up, and began his 45-year career as a leader and teacher. Now, take a wild guess. How many people were present when he left his lifeless body and when he came back into it again? Take a wild guess. None. Zero. How do we know the whole story? From Siddhartha Gautama. And would Siddhartha Gautama lie? So it must be true. It turns out that there are over 1 billion Buddhists on this planet, and all of them believe in a story that is true as long as Siddhartha Gautama told the truth. If Siddhartha Gautama lied, hallucinated, exaggerated, whatever the case is, then this religion is not true. Now, 1 billion people believe this with all their heart and soul. So there is a looming question we have to deal with it, which is, why do people believe stories that are started by one person? We'll get to that shortly. Nonetheless, what you start to see is that all religions in recorded history start when 1 or 2 people have some sort of transcendental experience or revelation, and then they persuade everybody else to follow. In all these cases, the credibility of the religion is dependent on the 1 or 2 people who launched the religion. Okay, now, why is this disconcerting for a skeptic? Because the ability to maintain a conspiracy is inversely proportional to the number of people involved, right? Which sounds high-tech, but it's actually very simple. There's even an equation that's used. The ability to maintain a conspiracy is defined by 1 over 2 to the n, where n equals the number of conspirators. This is assuming the thing is not true. Okay, now, what do I mean by this? It's very, very simple. By the way, this is excluding psychological and sociological factors which can modify this. But this is going to be the weakest link in the chain. So the psychological and sociological factors are irrelevant for our purposes. I'll show you what I mean. Let's say that you have one person who decides to lie and launch a cult. So when that one person lies and launches the cult, he says, it's true, and everybody buys it. Okay, now, there are 2 possible scenarios that can follow. In one scenario, the charismatic cult leader continues to insist throughout his life, it's true, in which case the religion could survive. In the second scenario, at some point, the charismatic cult leader says, I was just kidding, in which case the religion crashes. So, or it's likely that it will crash. You can't ever know what will happen for sure because people are crazy. But it is possible if the cult leader confesses, I made up a lie, that people at that point will abandon the religion. It will certainly undermine the credibility of the religion. Fine. So when you have one person who launches a cult, there are 2 possible scenarios that follow. Of those 2 possible scenarios that follow, how many allow the religion to survive? 1. That is, there is a 1 over 2 to the 1 chance with one cult leader that the religion will survive. Okay, now it's not clear yet, but it will become clear very, very shortly what I'm saying. Let's say that you have 2 people who launch a religion. When you have 2 people who launch a religion, there will be 4 boxes in your chart. There are 4 possible scenarios that follow. After they launch the religion, so one possible scenario is, the first guy says, it's true. And the second guy says, yeah, listen to my friend, it's all true. Religion survives. Second scenario, the first guy says, it's all true. And the second guy says, what are you talking about? We just made it up in the other room a few minutes ago, in which case the religion crashes. Third scenario, the first guy says, we made it all up. And the second guy says, we're trying to start a religion. Yeah, religion crashes. Fourth scenario, they both say, we made it up, in which case the religion crashes. When you have 2 conspirators, right, there are 4 possible scenarios. Of those 4 possible scenarios, how many allow the religion to survive? 1. So there is a 1 out of 4 chance, a 1 out of 2 to the 2 chance the religion will survive. Now you can work out the rest. If you have 3 people who launch a religion, there will be 8 boxes in your chart. The first box will say, it's true. The second box will say, it's true, it's a lie. The third box will say, it's true, it's a lie, it's true. You can fill in the rest of the boxes. In these 8 boxes, there will only be 1 box that says it's true. That guarantees or makes likely the survival of the religion. All the others make very unlikely the survival of the religion. Therefore, it is possible that the reason why all of the religions that we know of that last longer than a year are launched by only 1 or 2 people is because as this number goes up, the chances of the religion surviving become infinitesimal, right? To get a religion launched and survive with 4 conspirators, the chances are, excluding psychological and sociological factors, the chances are 1 in 16. 5 people, 1 in 32. 6 people, 1 in 64. 7 people, 1 in 128. So it is unlikely that you will end up with a conspiracy of 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 people launching a religion and that religion surviving. It is possible, but it is hard to believe. And if you actually look, now that's theory, but now if you look at the evidence that we're confronted with, again, put your feet back on the ground again, the reality is that we don't find such religions, with one exception, which is, every year they come out with a document called the Encyclopedia of Cults and Religions in America. If you look at the Encyclopedia of Cults and Religions in America and you look at each update, you will occasionally find a religion that is launched by 2 people, 3 people, or 4 people. However, you will not find that religion listed the following year. You understand why? Because someone spills the beans. And at that point, the religion explodes. So although I cannot prove what I'm saying to you right now, it is fairly obvious logically, and the empirical evidence seems to support the belief that the ability to maintain a conspiracy is inversely proportional to the number of people involved. Therefore, now what I'm doing now is I'm going to zoom back and we're going to conclude part 1 of this presentation. Yes? When you look at all the religions on planet Earth, and you ask the question, tell me your revelation narrative, and they tell you a story where the religion started through 1 or 2 people, you know that you are looking at a religion with very low credibility. Because with 1 or 2 people, it is fairly easy to get the lie started. Yeah? Again, I'm not proving that any particular religion is a lie. I'm just pointing out there's not much more reason to believe that it's true than that it's a lie. Because it's very easy to launch a religion when 1 or 2 people persuade everybody else to follow. If you have a religion where 3, 4, 5, 6 people say that something happened, that's impressive. By the way, there are religions that follow a model that seems to be impressive. For example, there's a Buddhist tradition that there were 45 other people in history that achieved the 8th stage of transic insight that became Buddha. However, none of those other people descended back to Earth again. The only one who descended is Siddhartha Gautama. So since he's the only one who descended and the other 45 never descended, how do we know there were 45 others? Take a wild guess. Well, no, they never came back down again, so it would have just looked like they died to their friends. So how do we know that they actually achieved the 8th stage? Who was there to witness it? Well, there was one person, Siddhartha Gautama. When Siddhartha Gautama came back down again, he told us about the 45 people who were up there that he met who achieved it. So it turns out you can have a story of a massive group of people experiencing something miraculous, but that story is only relayed to us through one individual. That model repeats a few times in history. Yeah? But again, there's always one person who is the key link, and that person is actually where you can identify the beginning of the cult if you're a skeptic. I have not proven that any religion on the planet is not true. All I've done is I've given you a very quick way, in about a minute, you can knock the credibility out of any religion. How do you do it? You say to them, tell me something. How did the religion start? Where did you get this technology? Where did you first, who were the first people who ever heard about this system for achieving these benefits? When you ask that question and they tell you it was 1 or 2 people, boom, the credibility is gone. Is religion true or not true? I don't know. I'm not proving it's true or not true, but I'm telling you it's low credibility. Okay, now, take this very same equation and apply it to Judaism. And what you'll see is Judaism goes up in flames. Yeah, right? What's the story with Judaism? You open up the book and it says God spoke to Abraham. Sure. Okay, a generation later, God spoke to Isaac. Uh-huh. A generation later, God spoke to Jacob. Family business. You see what's happening here? It's just like every other religion on the planet. Now, if you say this to an Orthodox Jew, they will get all concerned and say you're looking at the wrong part of the book. And I'm very open-minded. I'll look at any part of the book you want. What do you want me to look at? And they flip forward to the 2nd book of the Bible, the book of Exodus, where there's a story told about how the entire Jewish nation was enslaved. They escaped Egyptian slavery. They got out into the middle of the Sinai Desert. There in the Sinai Desert, 3 million people, 600,000 adult men who were married to 600,000 adult women, plus 1.8 million seniors and kids, stand at the base of Mount Sinai, and God gets up there and says, I'm the Lord your God. They all drop dead. They get back up again. You should have no other gods before me. They all drop dead. They get back up again. They remember the entire thing. They say, we don't want to do that again. You get lucky twice, not 3 times. They say, Moses, you go get the Torah. Moses goes up on the mountain, gets the Torah, all alone, by the way. Comes down, brings it to the Jews, and they believe it, and Judaism is up and running. That is the story that's recorded in the 2nd book of the Bible. So now, initially, this does seem a little bit different than the other religions, because you've got 3 million people hearing God speak, right? How do you get, what are the chances of, if n is 3 million, so what are the chances then of this thing getting up off the ground? 1 out of 2 to the 3 million is a very small number. So that shouldn't be impressive to you. Why? Because if you would make that argument in any university classroom, anywhere in America, right? The truth is, anywhere across Western Europe as well, any classroom that has courses on biblical criticism, they will tell you, you're telling me it's true because 3 million people heard God speak? How do you know that 3 million people heard God speak? So you say, well, I read it in the Torah. They say, who wrote the Torah? So the truth is, the state of the art today is not that one person wrote the Torah. The state of the art is that the Torah was written by 4 people, J, E, P, and D. This is documentary hypothesis. Wellhausen was the one who invented this quite a long time ago, but it's still the state of the art. J, E, P, and D were all scribes in their respective religions. There was 4 different religions here. J worshipped a god called Yahweh. E worshipped a god called Elohim. P was involved in a cult that raised to the heights the priestly duties. D is the Deuteronomist. Deuteronomy is written in a completely different language than the other books, so it must be written by a different author, right? You have J, E, P, and D. They all wrote different texts. I, you will find verses in the Torah that refer to God as Yahweh Elohim, talking about priestly duties, and it can be in Deuteronomy. So that's not a problem because the theory says that at a later date, the redactor, R, came, took all 4 of these texts, mixed them all together, which makes it impossible for us today to take them apart, right? And produced a document called the Torah, which the redactor then sold to a group of people. Those primitive tribesmen bought this document, told their children about it, and it was passed on for generations until finally it came down to you, right? And that's how Judaism started. So don't tell me that 3 million people heard God speak. It's a lie. It's a mythology that was made up by essentially 4 authors and a redactor and sold as a bill of goods to an unsuspecting group of people, and the religion is up and running. Okay. So it turns out now that Judaism is no more credible than any other religion on the planet because the entire thing comes through essentially one person, bless you, essentially one person, the redactor. Is that clear? Right? Every religion on the planet is now on the ground. Finished. Yeah, ashes. Okay.
So Judaism is no more credible than the other ones?
Exact same.
Okay.
It follows the Buddhist model because you have one person, a redactor, describing a miracle that took place where 3 million people heard God speak. But why do we think there were 3 million people? For the same reason we think there were 45 people up there with Siddhartha Gautama. It's one guy who reports this whole story. Or girl. They actually think the redactor was a girl today. That's the state of the art. Yeah, don't ask me why. It's terrible, the reason they think. Yeah. Okay, fine. I find the reason offensive. Okay. So, okay, now that I said that, I have to tell you why. Yeah. What they say is that the Torah is filled with what appear to be spelling mistakes, grammatical errors, syntactical contradictions, all sorts of textual anomalies, and that women were illiterate in those days, and therefore the redactor had to be a woman. Fine, okay. Let's move past that. Okay. That concludes part 1.